Reflections from the Reverend Geoffrey A. Black, General Minister and President of the United Church of Christ.
The officers of the church, the United Church of Christ, and I, as one of them, have identified signature issues that we will invest our time and energy in advocating for and advancing in the life of the whole church. They include the environment, literacy is one. Also, we're concerned about God's beloved community and the elimination of racism. This is still a part of who we are. And we are concerned about hunger issues. And you've seen initiatives about 3 of them, and you'll see the beloved community emerge as an issue again in the future. We go back 25 years on the environment, even though today people are just beginning to realize that the climate change that has been predicted for a while is really beginning to have an impact. Just yesterday, a major report was issued by former leaders of national administrations in the United States, pointing to the fact that soon, within this century, we will see the loss of real estate in the coastal areas, billions of dollars of real estate being underwater within this century, and the loss of food production in the Midwest. Up to 70% of the food production in the Midwest will be lost due to climate change. There's a possibility that there will be seasons of the year when people will not be able to work outdoors, either due to extreme heat or extreme cold. So these are realities that we believe are current and future that the church needs to address. 25 years ago, the United Church of Christ issued a landmark report on toxic waste in communities of people of color. This really began to shape thinking around the reality of environmental racism, that communities of color were impacted by pollution, air pollution, water pollution, that for instance, toxic waste was dumped into these communities or in nearby areas, and that had an impact on the quality of life in those communities. So children in inner city areas have higher rates of asthma, and this is triggered by environmental factors, the air pollution and so forth. And these are things that just a few of the ways that this kind of environmental racism really impacts communities throughout the nation. We have seen local churches begin to look at their carbon footprint and begin to reduce the use of energy and to find alternative forms of energy for their churches. For instance, some churches are putting solar panels on their roofs. Some churches are finding environmentally safer vehicles that they can use. Members of local churches are beginning to think about how they use energy in their homes, with their automobiles. These are practical ways that people can address environmental concerns. Just a few years back, we launched Mission 41 Earth, and that provided a way for people to begin to see and create innovative ways to address climate change and environmental stewardship in their churches and in their communities. These are things that local church people have done and will continue to do as we as the United Church of Christ try and work together with others in our communities to have an impact, a positive impact on the environment. We want to be good stewards of God's creation. When we think of Scripture, we can always go to the beginning, the book of Genesis, where we hear that God created the earth. And when God created the earth and all that was in the earth, the birds of the air, the fish of the sea, people, God concluded each act of creation with "it was good." We believe that creation is good and it is God's, and that to sustain creation, we have to be the stewards. We have to be the people who believe that it is good and want to continue to have God's good creation to live in, to live on, not only for ourselves, but for all of God's creation.
If you have a topic or question for Reverend Black, please send it to reflections@ucc.org. Submitted topics and questions will be considered for future episodes.